Hey guys, and welcome to the rebuild of this BSR36 millimeter carburetor. And I just wanted to show you how to do that, because there are some little gaskets and O-ring you need to make sure that you put them in the right way. Other than that, it's a fairly easy job for anybody who's interested in doing mechanical work, maybe did some mechanical work before. I guess the hardest part is getting out the carb of the engine, and once you have done that, that's really easy if you know what you're doing. So in the last video we went through all the mods we did on this carb, so I'm not going to go through that in detail again. But what we're going to do here is we're going to assemble the carb so it's completely functional and ready to be ripped again. So first off, let's start with the diaphragm. Make sure that this is in pristine condition, that there are no, that it's not getting hard. I just used some silicone grease on it to make sure it stays soft, and make sure to wipe that off once you're done. And make sure there are no cuts or holes in here. So what we're gonna do here is we need to take the needle. This is the OEM needle. Unfortunately, I didn't get the JD Jet Kit yet, so I'll just use this one and put that in. There is a thick washer, plastic washer clip, and then you have a thin washer on top. Now you put that on, make sure that the needle doesn't have any scratches on it, and you can then slide that in here and make sure you're not gonna lose the washers. There we go. This piece here, actually I replaced the O-ring here just to make sure. This is not really critical, but it just makes sure that this piece is held in place properly. Then we have this little spring that goes on here, which kind of holds the needle down but doesn't attach it completely to the slider. Then just take some long nose pliers and then carefully kind of guide that in here, and you should feel it pop, and then it should stick in here. And you can also test it by moving the needle. The needle should now you should be able to move the needle now. By the way, if you want to replace the diaphragm, really easy. You're just gonna remove this clip here, remove the diaphragm, and here on this carb you can put it on either way, it doesn't matter. Just put it on here and make sure it's tight here. So once that's done, we can slide that slider in here, and now take the spring, which is now shortened, and put that in here. I usually take the shortened side on the top. Doesn't really matter, I guess. And then there is one important piece, which is actually going to be this O-ring here. And this O-ring will sit right, not here, but here. Oops, I put some dirt in here, which is not good. Keep that out. So yeah, you can also moisten it a bit, just so it does stick a little bit better. And once that's done, we need to make sure that this diaphragm here is all the way in on all sides, because we don't want to squish it when putting on the top or the cap. Okay, that should work somehow. And then we take this lid and make sure that this cover doesn't have like a staged part here. So it looks like this. This is actually the unrestricted throttle or the unrestricted cap. Then just slide that on here. And then you can also wiggle it a bit back and forth and really make sure that the diaphragm is all the way in, that the O-ring is in place. This O-ring is also prone to falling out when you're just doing work with the carb installed on the bike, so be aware of that. Then if you have bolts which are already used, I'm always using the one in the worst condition up here, because that's the easiest to get access to when the carb is still on the bike. And then you can just basically bolt them on with not too much force. Okay, now that's done, we should be able to open this slider all the way, which is not happening here for some instance. So that's a really good scenario here. Let's see what's wrong. Ah, there we go. I guess I know what I did. I didn't put in the spring the right way. Silly me. So really make sure to put it on this tab here. Get it over. And then you can also test it like this. Now there we go. So always make sure to do this test before you add the carb to the bike. Now let's test it again. There we go, works nice. Now with some compressed air. Very nice. So that's already the top part done. In addition, we could just now slide in this one here. For that, I'm just gonna use a tad bit of silicone grease just to make that tube slide over a bit easier here. Let's go to the float bowl here and show you what happens down there. Actually really easy. You just need to know which jet is which, because you can exchange them if you're not careful enough, but you're gonna get it right, I know. So let's start with the needle valve, which is this part here. You can also kind of loop that O-ring slightly, and then you should be able, of course, make sure that O-ring is replaced. That's a very common part where a carb can leak, and you can just open up your fuel tap and the carb will just start leaking out of this little outlet here, which usually means that this O-ring is toast or the needle valve doesn't fully close. Could be either. Actually, it should not just slide in, but if you push it in slightly, it should just snap in place. And once you have that, there is this little screw here, and that's actually needed to keep that valve in place, just like that. Now next up there is gonna be this part here. Also replace the O-ring once you're at it, and this one just will slide in here. And now I guess I forgot something. Let me check. Ah, okay, that part is already installed. Let's see if we can get that out. No, I cannot get it out. I already installed it, but I forgot about it. There's a brass piece in here, which is already in there. It's kind of a tube, kind of like the upper part here. And that's actually, once we are done putting that in, you can actually see it from up here. So make sure when you have removed that you're also gonna put it back in. This is the part I was talking about. It's kind of guiding the needle here. So yeah, with that done, we can just bolt that on, not too hard. Just make sure it sits tight or sits nicely. Okay, then as a next step, we do have the jets. So this one here now is the main jet, and that should actually be the biggest size. And originally it is a 142.5. And in my case, we do have a DRC with a full exhaust system, but with no airbox mods done. So let's see, with airbox mods and aftermarket exhaust, they provide a 170. Main jet with airbox mods and slip-on exhaust a 160. So I would also go to that 160 range, I guess, because there are no airbox mods, but still something. And since we are running the engine, since it's got a new piston and a new cylinder, I'd rather go a bit too rich than too lean. So that's the 160, and this is gonna go here on this tube. And then just make sure it's secured in place, but not more. Then we do have the starter jet, which is looking exactly the same as the main jet, except there is a different number on it. This here is a 62.5. This will only be used when starting the engine. So on really low speeds or really low RPMs, this will be used. And then we do have another one. This one is a 22.5, but I would actually replace it with a 25 from JD Jet Kit. I don't have that here yet, so I'm just gonna use this one. So that's in place. We can actually go ahead and put this one on, this tab here. And before we forget, there's one other, let's say, jet in here. And that's actually gonna be the fuel mixer screw. Usually on these carbs, I like to use an extended one. I don't have it here yet, so I'm just gonna do that later on and finish the tutorial here. But anyway, this one here you can access with a flathead screwdriver. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna take that little spring here, put that on. Then, important now, get that washer on. And the washer is just here, so that end of the spring doesn't destroy the O-ring on top here. I'm just gonna turn the carb upside down now, or right side up, and put it here in the middle hole. So get that carefully in here so it doesn't slide out. And then you can screw it in all the way. But just be careful, you don't go over tight on it. Just turn it, 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 until it kind of starts to seat. Okay, now it's seated. And with these ones, they actually give you, I guess, 3.5 turns would be, yes, 3.5 is the recommendation. So you go half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, like that. And now that's basically it for that part. We can then go ahead and take this needle valve here, and actually it's easiest if you just put it on here. Make sure that little metal piece is kind of holding on to that bracket here. And then maybe you need to remove that piece again. That's just disturbing us. And then we just slide that on. This piece here, which just goes through. Now it is about setting the float height. And for that, you actually want this little tab of the spring, let's see, or this little tab here. You don't want to be have it compressed, but you want that the float here, this part here, actually just barely touches it and doesn't compress it. So that's the state you want to get it to. And that's not too easy with this carb here, but usually what works best is just hold it at an angle and kind of play with that and figure out until where it kind of springs back. And you see, okay, that's probably going to be the place here where you can also feel it. You can compress the tab, but it always goes back to here. And now we can see from the manual, they are saying the float height should be 12 to 14 millimeters. So let's take our ruler here, get it into this awkward position here. And then once we have it, we're gonna measure it, and that's already too much. Another good sign is this one should be kind of flat and you're always gonna measure to the top. So you're not gonna measure to a line in here, so always to the top. So this one is too high, and what we're gonna do now, quite straightforward, we're just gonna bend up this little tab here a bit. Like that. That was probably still a bit high. And that height actually has a big impact on your air-fuel ratio. So you can put in the perfect jet, but if that doesn't line up, it's not gonna run well. So we are now at like 13 millimeters, which is exactly in between 12 to 14, and you can also see that's basically pretty much flat here, so that's a good sign. Then we just make sure that everything moves here, the needle moves well, and so on. You can open it and close it, and yeah, that's basically already it here. Struggling with the spring. Okay, now let's install this piece here. Just get it on like that, and then we can already go ahead and start installing the float bowl. So for that we need to connect this tube now here, just to make it look undercover, like that. And then we go ahead and take this gasket here, the float bowl gasket. I'm gonna use a tiny amount of silicone grease just to make it stick a bit better to the float bowl. You can also spit on it if you're into stuff like that. Now let's get it on and hope it will be the right size. Sometimes it's a bit a struggle, and especially once fuel was in here, it's gonna be much harder to get it. So let's make sure we get that O-ring sealing nice and well, and you can kind of check it on each side if the float bowl, if that looks good. Then with that done, really easy, you have some longer screws, and one is actually gonna be used here for this bracket, I guess. Okay, then we have another one which will actually be, let's just do, I guess, the other side first. Let's do this side first, always go over cross. And then we have this piece here. And then the last one right here. And with each one I'm going a bit tighter and tighter until I can get them all properly done. Okay, then we have this tube here. Just make sure that it's held in place here with this little mounting bracket here, and you could also actually get them through here. That's a bit nicer. So get them through here. Make sure that is in place. And we don't have any leftovers we don't want to use, so that's perfect. Let's connect the last bit here. And there we go. That's a fully assembled BSR carb. We can check it. The slider here should go up all the way. We can take some compressed air again. And watch it move up and down. Now a bit faster since we drilled out these holes and reduced the spring. And yeah, that's basically it. You need to, when you're installing it, make sure that this inlet here is actually attached. That's going to be mounted to the pair valve sitting on the left hand side on the engine, which is then connected to the exhaust header or to the exhaust port just above there. There's a little outlet, and make sure that's all connected together. And then I'm also gonna add in a little tube here, which is actually the overflow, which you actually should just route outside of the swing arm back down, so if there's any fuel dripping out, it won't drip over your tire, maybe a bit to the side. So yeah, I hope you had a good time here. I wish you a great evening, and I need to go inside because it's so freaking cold. My fingers are kind of freezing here. So yeah, have a good one, and yeah, that guy. I don't know if you heard that, but there was somebody just going ham with his car. It's funny. Okay, have a good one. Bye bye. Peace.
Mm.